My name is Mark Untram. I'm 53 years old and I have cystic fibrosis. Cystic fibrosis is a genetic disease. It is inherited. It is incurable. It is sometimes fatal, life-threatening. Lives are lost to this disease every day. It impacts the lungs and the respiratory system and the digestive system, and it can have adverse effects to people who live with it. That's why we need to do fundraising, and if you want to participate in fundraising efforts for cystic fibrosis and for finding a cure, please go to www.cff.org. That's the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation, and find out what efforts and activities in your area can help you to fundraise the necessary money that helps us to fund research and ultimately to find a cure. I was diagnosed when I was about 13 years old, when a lot was not known about the disease. The way I was diagnosed is I tried out for high school soccer, and I couldn't keep up the training and the running with the team because I was constantly coughing and hacking up mucus on the playing field and huffing and puffing. And as a result of that, the school nurse suggested to my parents that I go get an x-ray, and an x-ray was taken, and they found a spot on my lung. And through a series of deductions, I eventually was sweat tested. And I had an abnormally high sodium chloride level in my sweat. And as a result of that, I was hospitalized at that time and eventually diagnosed with the disease CF. The disease targets the lungs primarily and the digestive systems of the body. And with the lungs, we all have secretions in our airways that are of the consistency of like skin moisturizer that keep our airways well lubricated and also trap particles and bacteria so that we don't get sick. And the defect in cystic fibrosis, the genetic defect, causes that secretion to be abnormally thick and sticky, almost like oatmeal. And as a result of that, it clogs airways so that people have a more difficult time breathing. It grows a lot of bacteria and it causes inflammation in the lung tissue. And eventually, if people don't get treated with antibiotics who have the disease, they have to be hospitalized and treated with IV antibiotics and antibiotic aerosol medications to, again, combat the infection. The disease also affects the digestive systems of the body in the same way that it affects the lungs. Sticky secretions block the organs that secrete digestive enzymes into the tract where your food intake is, and they normally break down the nutrients so that your body can absorb them and utilize them effectively. But with CF, those ducts are blocked, and as a result, people with CF cannot digest and absorb the nutrients properly. So they're usually underweight, and they usually have difficulty with bowel movements. Sometimes they have bowel obstruction. And as a result of that, we have to take supplemental enzymes along with our food intake at every meal so that we can more properly digest food, absorb nutrients, and gain weight. The other thing that is affected is that we don't process sodium chloride at the cellular level properly. And as a result of that, we have abnormally salty skin. And so our salt chloride levels are thrown off, and this causes the secretions to be sticky again in our bodies, and we sometimes have to take supplemental salt. In much the same way the sticky secretions affect the lungs, they also affect the sinuses, and they cause sinusitis, and they cause frequent colds and sinus headaches in people with CF. And sometimes that requires surgical intervention.